through a storm. It is Anfield Agenda time. Craig is set for the day and the news. Sit back and relax, grab a coffee and chill, and enjoy the shenanigans tonight. Anfield Agenda. Anfield Agenda. YNWA. Anfield Agenda. Time for Craig to tell it straight. Watch-alongs to fill your day. Make to subscribe and stay. Up the Reds, up the Reds. Oh, oh, ooh. Oh, oh, ooh. Oh, oh, ooh. Oh. Anfield Agenda. Anfield Agenda. YNWA. Anfield Agenda. Time for Craig to tell it straight. Watch-alongs to fill your day. Make to subscribe and stay. Up the Reds, up the Reds. Oh, oh, ooh. Oh, oh, ooh. Oh, oh, ooh. Oh, 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 Anfield Agenda. Anfield Agenda. YNWA. Anfield Agenda.
What is up, my friends? You are very welcome along to tonight's Late Night Agenda, where as always I hope that life is treating you well. So look, we're going to go through a lot tonight, and I'm sure people are freaked out at the title, and I'm sure people are confused, and I'm going to try my best to explain where I'm coming from on this one. Let me make something very clear though at the start. I am absolutely unmoved in my staunch belief that it will be a massive, 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 massive mistake if we don't do business in this January window. But I'm going to tell you why I think we need to manage our expectations a little bit. Carl Morgan said that guy needs to make a new intro. No, he doesn't, mate. The intro's absolutely fine. Feel free to mute it if you don't like it. But it is what it is, my man. And it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So feel free to have a pop at it yourself, though, if you want to help us out. I mean, I can't sing, as we know at this point. So, look, loads to get through tonight. And I guess I just feel at this point I'm unsure if we're going to get a signing. And that's where I wanted to come on and be honest with everybody. You know, speaking to David and looking at what other journalists are writing, and I just don't want to set people up for heartache in January. I'll still be the same me, still calling out what I think will be a lack of business if it isn't done. But just trying to gauge everything at the minute, I think I'd be a liar if I came on here and said that I feel really confident that we're going to get a signing in January. I don't. But I just feel that if we haven't learned from the mistakes of the past, we're going to repeat them, or we'll be doomed to repeat them. And when things are going well, like now, we always see that we don't go and attack the window. If you get where I'm coming from, like, it feels like every year we get to this position and loads of people are suddenly won over, believing that, well, we don't need anything, and then the owners are under no pressure to go and sign somebody. But often that comes back to bite us in the backside, and I think it will again, which is why I want us to be more outspoken and almost demand that the position, at least midfield, is addressed in this window. But as I said, names are thin on the ground, concrete links are thin on the ground. You can make an argument that maybe Edwards and Hughes are playing their cards close to their chest, and my God, I hope that's the case. But I wonder if we're just going to get another window of, well, maybe we'll get more contract stuff that'll drag it through the window with regards to the 3 boys that we need to sign up. And then the window will go by, and then they'll hope for the best that nothing happens. I think it's on us as fans to be proactive and start saying that it isn't acceptable. Because I like to read up on the Athletic comment section, the Echo comment section, and anywhere I can find Liverpool fans, and read what they're thinking. And it's been kind of refreshing in the last day or two to see that even on platforms that I would say are very supportive of the financial stance the owners have taken, people are still saying that it would be a mistake if we didn't do business this January, which I find quite refreshing, to be honest, because I think it would be. So let me know how you guys feel about it. Harry, thank you, mate, for the first super chat of the night. I knew tonight was going to be a quiet one, by the way, because the darts is on, the football is on, but I wanted to come on and chat with you all anyway. No signings is a piss take. We only want a backup CM. So yeah, look, don't take it for granted that there won't be any signings. Like, this isn't me saying 100%. I can just give you the vibe I'm getting when I speak to people. And I'm certainly expecting to be disappointed. But I hope I'm wrong. Craig, will FSG keep everything confidential as professional management should? They keep the cards close to the chest indeed. Yeah, and that's fine if we do some business, mate. But I don't know if we are going to do business or not. And that's what worries me. Because I'm all for Liverpool keeping their cards close to their chest if it means we get somebody. But at what point then do you start saying that hope is misfounded or unfounded and we're going to see the same rinse and repeat stuff? Because it worries me when I see the Athletic and the likes of James Pearce posting out pieces that are kind of almost setting us up for no signings and saying, well, Liverpool may bring in somebody, may not bring in somebody, and they're happy with the squad, and the form of Ryan Gravenberch meant X or Y, blah, blah, blah. I don't know a single Liverpool fan that doesn't think Ryan Gravenberch's been amazing. But I also don't know another Liverpool fan who doesn't think we're running the risk of an injury by overplaying him. And we should be able to look at what's going on at Arsenal and Saka and his injury and think, well, youngsters being overplayed, this can happen and we need to try and mitigate that. Because speaking from a position of strength now, it's easy to go, oh yeah, we're in great position. We don't need to sign anybody. But what happens if, like what's happened to us in the past, comes again and we start to have a wobble and Arsenal build a bit of momentum? I think the best thing we can do to try and mitigate that is to get this signing in. And what I don't want to hear, and I almost cringed a little bit when I was speaking with David Lynch earlier and he said, well, if the club wanted or got the word from Zubamendi that he wanted to come in the summer, maybe hold off. And I'm just thinking, no holding off, because holding off has just been too long now. This one position's needed to be resolved for a long time. And letting another window go by and the hope that Zubamendi comes and the hope that we deliver the league title, I just think it would be the wrong decision. Matt said, Merry Christmas, Craig. Appreciate all that you do. Thank you, Matt. Merry Christmas to you and your family as well, bro. Appreciate you. Paul said, FSG rolling the dice, hoping for a double six. Yes. And that's exactly the way I'd describe it, Paul. Yes, that is exactly it, mate. In the summer, as disappointed as I was, and I was very disappointed at the summer transfer business, nothing against Chiesa and Mamadashvili as signings, but it wasn't what we needed. So in the summer, I sat back, thought about my disappointment, thought about the squad, and then I came to the conclusion that, okay, at least I can perhaps make an excuse in my mind that we have a new manager in and a new sporting director, and maybe they need to get their feet under the table. And because Zubamendi didn't happen, maybe they need to reevaluate the midfielder market. And I could understand it. I didn't agree with it, but I could understand it. Like I've said about Trent Alexander-Arnold and the contract situation, I'm going through the checklist of excuses here in my mind. And I'm ticking them off with, well, they can't use this one, they can't use this one. And I'm at the point now of there is no more excuses. There is no more, this is a tricky market. There is no more, Arna's happy with what he has. It's just not true at this point. We need to get the midfielder. So let me ask you guys what you're thinking on the transfers. So I'm going to put a poll up, 1 second. And I'm going to ask you, how many transfers do you realistically think will happen in January? Okay, so I'm going to ask, how many signings do you expect in January? Not how many do you want, but how many do you think will come through the door? So 1 second. I'm just trying to write out these answers for you. So, here's the poll. How many signings do you expect in January? And I've gone for none, 1 or 2. Because I don't think 3 is going to be an option. I don't think it's even worth putting it down as an option for you guys. So, 3 options there for you. How many signings do you expect in January? Now remember, this isn't me asking what you want. Because we all want 1 or 2. You know, we all want midfielder, maybe a left back, maybe a centre back. But I'm talking about the key word in that post is expect. Giannis, how are you, bro? Said, without a left back, we'll get killed in the Champions League. Per Gravenberch, Slot wanted Zubamendi after he told Gravenberch he wants him for the number 6. Gravenberch injury away from losing everything. Giannis, my man, I'm 100% with you. I have concerns. And do you know what? I'm going to be honest, Giannis, and say, up to maybe 2 weeks ago, I was okay with no left back in January. In fact, I was more thinking it was logical to do it in the summer. But I was doing my notes out last night for my chat with David Lynch today. So on a match day, I always do all the match day content. Then late at night, I sit down and do out the questions and the topics I want to talk about with David the next day. And I was doing the left back stuff. And as I was writing it out, I said to myself, do you know what? Be honest here, your opinion has changed. And it has changed. I would also like the left back situation to be sorted out in January. I don't think it will be. Full disclosure, I don't. But I'm at that point now, Giannis, where, yeah, I'm with you. I think Costas, I'll never be convinced by. And Robbo, as you know, goodwill, and as much as we want him to get back to the old Robbo, you know, he's been at the scene of the crime a few times recently. So I don't have much confidence in either at this particular moment in time. Charlie, how are you, sir? Said, hey Craig, I know people will look at FSG, but there's no way they haven't made money available. I blame Hughes and Edwards. If they don't get it, their first target, they don't have second choices. It's hashtag Hughes out, you said. So, yeah, look, when I speak with David, he feels similar to yourself in that there will be money there, and if a decision is made not to strengthen, that decision is going to be from Hughes and Edwards. So, for me, look, I look at it differently. I think, like in any business, everything trickles down from the top and you set the tone from the top. But I can't argue with you that I'm sure there is money there. I'm sure that there is. But what I don't know is if John would say to the boys, well, I think that we need to strengthen. So maybe Hughes and Edwards have this one target that they can't get till the summer, but if I'm John W. Henry, I'm wanting silverware. You know, I'm wanting my new manager parading a trophy. So I don't really care who's to blame. For me, if there is blame to be had, then we have a problem. You know, as a fan base, we have a problem. Daniel Small, thank you, mate. Appreciate you. Thank you so much, mate, for your super chat. At this stage, I'll be happy to get the contract sorted for the 3 that we have, said Kieran Mullen. 1 second, I need to... no, that wouldn't work for me, mate. That's been my worry all along. Now, look, Kieran, I'm not trying to say to you, bro, that you're wrong. I'm trying to say that that's too easy to get out of jail card for them. Because I don't even know if we're going to get the contract stuff sorted in January or not. You know, David feels very bullish about Trent still giving his preference to Liverpool for the contract renewal, despite the stuff that we've seen today coming out of Spain. Real Madrid's confidence seems to be growing in that regard. But let's just read through what a couple of the English-based journalists have said, actually. And I want to take you to... who was the first we're going to go with? Paul Joyce. So let's talk about Paul Joyce and what he's written for a second. He said, despite the rush of goals from Mohamed Salah, 16 goals and 11 assists in the Premier League, securing Virgil van Dijk's future is believed to be the priority for the club. So let's just talk about this for 1 second. If Paul Joyce writes that Virgil van Dijk is the club's preference to get sorted first, I'm concerned. I'm very concerned. because he's also the easiest to get done of the three. So if they're prioritising the easiest one, and that hasn't been done yet, I'm concerned as to why. Because it seems like a pretty straightforward thing. Virgil wants to be here. The club want to keep him here. Why has that not been done yet? So that's concern number one. On top of that, then, Paul Joy said, Richard Hughes and Slot remain relaxed about the contract situation because it's clear that Van Dijk and Salah want to remain at Liverpool, even if they've gone about showing that in different ways. That's, again, great, but it's always optimistic, sunny side up stuff, isn't it? No, what if somebody does get in the rear? Or what if they do have concerns and they feel like all of a sudden, well, I'm not being prioritised here. Why is this dragging on so long? It's always that the club are relaxed about it, isn't it? There should be a rocket up their arse at this point because they've dragged it out too long. He goes on as well to say, a quote from Arne Slot, that Trent, Van Dijk and Salah, he said, they're in constant talks with the club. Let's see what happens. So, let's see what happens. On Chris Bascom, he said, Liverpool are relaxed about the new year, given all indications remain that the stated preference of all three players is to commit to the club as they're continuing talks with the Anfield hierarchy. So there's two reasons for me these contracts need to be done. The obvious one of extending the boys and making sure they're here for the future. But also, we don't want to have any potential doubts creep in as the title race gets more and more serious as the season goes on. We don't want to have any distractions for the players. And I know everyone will say they're professionals and all, but your future is your future, and where your family are going to live and all these other things that the boys have to be concerned about will weigh on them. It will become a potential distraction, and why allow it when you can nip it in the bud and get the contract resolved? Again, we've all been very patient as a fan base because we've allowed Richard Hughes to come in and understand that he's just inherited this situation. But if we're just really blunt about this and just think about it from Liverpool FC, well, they've taken the piss with how long they've let these contract extensions go on. So there's only so much goodwill I think you're willing to have as a fan base before you have to go, we need some movement. We need some signs that there's progression here. Otherwise, what is everyone at? What are you doing? Like, what are you doing day to day? If there's very few signings and we've got no contract extensions done, what on earth is going on? Adam Randall said, I'm worried about the transfer window. So, I've gone between a few things, mate. Thinking that, okay, maybe it is just cards close to the chest stuff, but I don't know if I've gotten too soft on the whole transfer stance, you know, because I'm trying to be more understanding and a bit less aggro about the owners, because I understand it wears on people when I'm saying where's the money, John, all the time and calling out the owners. But God almighty, it's difficult because I don't want to be sitting here in February talking about, oh, well, that window got away from us. We gave them the benefit of the doubt as the window went on and then nothing. That could be a mistake. So I'm stuck in this position of, do I say what I want to say, which is get the fucking signings done? What are you at? Hurry up, stop being cheap. Because that's really how I feel deep down. But I also don't want to be a destabilising factor in our fan base, and I don't want to bring negativity and toxicity to a time in the season where, you know, we're 7 points clear. So I'm kind of torn about what to do and what way to pitch my own thoughts on it. Carl said, is there anything to be said for another mass? I love a good mass. I love the Father Ted reference there, Carl. So many people probably tuning in going, what are these two lads on about? Sorry, Father Ted reference there. I think we've said a few masses, Carl, at this point, mate. I think it's time for a bit of action. It's totally embarrassing. We started a protest against these clowns, said Alex Macklin. So, let me just ask a different question to the people in the chat. So, I want to be a reflection of our audience. I want to go out into the world and fight your corner. So, I want to make sure that, I'll share my beliefs, but I also want to, represent you. So, will you guys, as a fan base, be annoyed if we don't make a signing in January? Like, are you gone into this window feeling like if we don't do business, I'm going to be pissed off? Let me know in the comments, because again, I don't want to be annoying you, because I could sit here and rant about the owners for hours. I could tell you about the good stuff they've done as well, but honestly, I could sit here and rant about the cheap for hours. The problem with new signings is that we have world-class players. Finding new gems is the Liverpool way. See, that kind of washes, mate, sometimes, but it's often been the excuse. Jurgen used that excuse for a long time as well, and it didn't wash with me then when he said it's very difficult to go out there and find improvements. Well, I'm going to swear here, mate, but it's not at you. It's their fucking job to go out and find these players. You know, that's what they're paid the big bucks for. And you can't just keep saying, we're still looking, we're still searching, can't find anyone. Other clubs are able to do it and find players. We should be able to do it as well. So TOTT2KZ1 said, yes, I'd be angry. Finty Tin said, down with this sort of thing. Another Father Ted reference, well played. Outside the cinema in Greystones, we love that. Izan said yes. LFC said yes. Be fuming, said Cliff. Adam Reynolds, yes, very much so for David. We need to buy at least one DM, said Naz. Yuri said it's time to start trusting the process. I don't think there is a process, though. And that again is the problem, Yuri. You know, a process that has shown us that in recent years? That they don't have the hunger to spend. Because for what we've won, nobody will ever convince me we couldn't have won more if we had showed a little bit of courage or hunger in the transfer market. Dino said, I wouldn't be angry, but a bit disappointed. Right, let me pitch it to you another way, Dino. We don't make a signing in January. Ryan Gravenberch gets injured in March, and we're going into the latter stages of the Champions League and the business end of a title race, having to play Maka, Endo, or somebody else in the position, and we see a drop off of form. You're still not going to be angry about it? Because I've seen that scenario play out too many times in the last 3, 4, 5 years, where we're on for a potentially monumental season, and we're in the hunt for everything, only exhaustion hits us like that, fatigue hits us, and then the wheels come off, and we end up with an okay season from what could have been an amazing season. A couple of super chats to go through. So Hoarder said, FSG is risking our title hopes. Thank you, mate. Well, the club are. Let's just say the club are. We'll go with the club, because some people think it's on Hughes and Edwards. Charlie said, call it out, Craig. Your voice, be you. Cool. Well, look, if you want me to call it out, I'll go further than you probably... I think it's a fucking disgrace that this is allowed to happen. That they are allowed to run this football club in such a miserly way, where there is only ever excuses and never action. Never. You know, wages are an excuse. Well, you cleared up a load of wages. You brought in 18 million in extra savings there in the summer. Why aren't we seeing that? Oh, contract extensions, but you haven't extended them yet. And even if you did extend them, then that's still getting us back to the status quo. And now we're in a position where we've already made 80 million euro from the Champions League this season. You know, that's not my words. That's out there in black and white. So you can find that. And then we've got Premier League money coming in, of course. Top of the table, loads of games on TV. So money shouldn't be a problem. So if money isn't the barrier, as in the ability to spend isn't the barrier, it's one of two things then. An inability to find the right players or cheap owners. And I don't mind which one of those two you pick. If you think it's the inability to find players, then we need to have a conversation about Hughes and Edwards. Or if you think it's the owners, which I do, then we need to have a conversation about what we can do to change that. So it's easy to say everything's great now, we don't need to do anything. It's commendable, and it speaks to how great Arne Slot has been. But it's also risky, because that's exactly, in my mind, what FSG want. They want to be able to coast through another window. They want to be able to keep their money in their pocket and hope that we can still be there come the end of the season. I don't want us to do it in a wing and a prayer anymore. I want us to go out there and attack it, and I want us to be dominant, and I want us to create an era under Arne Slot like Manchester City's under Pep. And I'm going to say, why can't that be Liverpool fans' expectation? Because Manchester City built their recent dominance off a good squad with good depth. We need to be able to do the same. I'm not saying we should be a Chelsea or a Todd Boehly and spend 1.3 billion. But why can't we now look and build from this? Why do we have to just fall over the line? I want us to be winning 3-4 trophies. I want us to be going 2-3 back to back. Because it's possible with the right additions. A couple more comments to get through. Whitney said, I understand the frustration, but buy someone gets us another Thiago Alcantara on the bench. But I'm not just saying buy someone, Whitney. The argument about buying someone, I understand, because there are some fans who just want the signing. But we're talking about a position where we've gone through 3 transfer windows and not signed in the one position that everyone has acknowledged we need to. And it doesn't take a year and a half to scout and find a player. It just doesn't. So we've looked foolish missing out on Lavia, Caicedo, not so much on Tchouaméni, but we did miss out there. And then, of course, in the last one with Zubamendi. So the excuses about not being able to find the player just doesn't cut it with me anymore, personally. But again, it is just my opinion. Aaron Pickard said, Craig, can you explain how Endo doesn't fit what Slot wants out of his defensive midfielder? Not being sarcastic, genuinely curious. I don't know that I can answer a question about what somebody else feels is lacking in a player for the way he wants the position played. That would be unfair of me to say. All I can say to you, Aaron, is what I've said from the very start when Arne Slot came in, is that every indication that I've heard from journalists or from people close to the club is that he just doesn't fancy Endo to do the job the way he wants to do it. I can't change that, mate. You know, I can only be honest about what I've been told. And to be fair, I've been saying that a long time, and it's been proven in every selection he's made. Look at my predicted 11 for the game against Leicester. I had Endo in. I was resting Gravenberch and I played Endo. But Arne didn't. In a game where you would say should be pretty much a gimme at home against a team who looked destined to be relegated. And he didn't do it. And if he doesn't do it in that game, as close to a gimme game as you can get in the league, that should tell you that whether you agree or disagree, it's pretty clear that Arne just doesn't rate him in that position. I can't give you the reasons why. I'm not Arne Slot, as much as I may look a little bit like him. How can you say that FSG is the problem when the whole football world said Liverpool's the best team at the moment? Do they? Because... Alright, how can I say FSG are the problem? I can point to 2-3 seasons in the last 5 years where we've been in this position and not gone out and strengthened, and it's cost us when the season's gone on. That's how I can say it. Because my lived experience as a Liverpool fan, Yerry, has been that these owners, apart from when they're lying to us and sticking 2 fingers up at us and joining the Super League, apart from all of that stuff, which I could speak about for a long time, we've been here before, mate, and we haven't won it. Now, we're in a position where not only can we win it this year, I think we can win it this year and put the fear of God into everybody else about what might happen in the next 2 or 3 years. I want us to build a dynasty. Not win one every few years. I want us to build on success, unlike when we won the Premier League and we didn't. So that's why I feel like I can call out the owners, mate. Because so much more is possible if they show some ambition. And the only indicator that I can have is to look across the Atlantic to the Red Sox. And as much as I don't fully understand the business side of baseball, I do understand what being a fan is. And I do understand the anger of a fan base over there that has almost seen a similar thing play out. Some success and then let loads of players go, or not restock, or not put money into the big players and fall away a little bit. And if, as I've said all the way through, that's their hometown club. That's where they grew up. That's where they live. That's where they shop. That's where they work. So yeah, I just don't think Yeah, I just don't think it. What's this? Yes, Craig, be better. I don't know what that means, Hoarder. I'm confused by what you mean by that, mate. So that's how I feel. And most importantly, I've just lost trust with the owners because of the Super League. And I'll never forgive them for that. Ever. That was, in my opinion, the most scumbaggy thing I've seen an owner do with this football club since I've been supporting them. And that's a big thing to say when we've had Hicks and Gillette at the club. But to have all of our tradition and history potentially just taken away from us to make them a few extra pound at the expense of our heritage, I think is disgusting. Andrew said, strengthen when you're on top, not stand still and let everybody else catch up. Should have done it when we won the league, but look what happened. Exactly. Exactly that, mate. When you're on top and you win something, it's a nice feeling, isn't it? It's, you know, and it's easy. Success breeds success, as the old saying goes. So yeah, I don't want it to become a sporadic thing where we win a league title, go a few years without one. I want us to make everybody else absolutely shit themselves thinking this is Liverpool's era. I want this to be the Liverpool Arne Slot era. AJ said, by the way, Hughes did very well at Bournemouth, just saying. You see, you say that, but let me rewind back to the summer when I had so many people in the comments saying it's a big step up from Liverpool to Bournemouth. The signings he was bringing out of Bournemouth weren't good enough for Liverpool and wouldn't be good enough for Liverpool. Now, fast forward a few months and we've got people crying out for Kirkes, who is the left back that he brought into Bournemouth. So I'm agreeing with you, but I'm just saying things have shifted since then. And people feel like now, yeah, he is capable of it, but we haven't yet seen it. The only sample we have is Zubamendi, and that fell through. John Dice, welcome to Anfield Agenda FC, John. Appreciate you. Eli Wood said Liverpool had that mentality in the past, which was the whole reason FSG bought the damn club. Exactly. Sleeping giant. Potential to be that. Be the dominant force again. And do you know what? One thing that frustrates me more is I think our transfer business as a whole, with a couple of exceptions, because you're never going to have a 100% success rate in the transfer market, I think our transfer policy and the way that we've brought players in when we have got them has been sublime. But that only makes me more angry, is that we know we've got a good track record of the ones we do pull the trigger on, so why not? Why not go and do it? Because I struggle to believe that there isn't a number 6 anywhere in the world in 18 months that we couldn't have found and been able to get ready to approach this window and bring in. Hoarder, thank you, mate, for gifting a membership. Appreciate you. Craig, would you take Danny Olmo? He's been forced out of Barca. He's a huge upgrade from Szoboszlai and Elliott. No, because we don't need him. Would I take him in fantasy football terms? Maybe. But right now, the need for me is clearly defensive midfielder and then left back. You know, it's always lovely to be linked with attacking players and flair players, and then another day in the summer maybe. But right now, Olmo is just, he wouldn't even be on my radar because I think Liverpool need to sort out the defensive side. Deirdre said, first, the money is there and FSG back to manager. It's not their fault when the manager is picky. Okay, so let me tell you why you're wrong, Deirdre. Do you remember John Achterberg, our goalkeeping coach? Do you remember why he said we didn't sign? Or what would have happened if we had have signed, what's the kid's name from Lyon at the time? Your man that's gone on to Real Betis. The guy who gave us all PTSD. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He said that had Liverpool signed him, we wouldn't have been able to sign Alisson. And this is coming from an employee at the club, not a fan, you know, not me or anybody else. He was saying it. So Kloppo clearly wanted to do these bits of business, but the owner said the money wasn't there. Yes, Nabil Fekir, thank you, that was the one. The owner said the money wasn't there. So your very first point of first the money is there doesn't seem to be true. So you can say oh, the manager's being picky, but we'd be really unlucky, wouldn't we? And probably have the first managers in the history of world football that don't want signings. Because I promise you, ask any manager in any window if they think they can improve their squad, they're going to say yes. And I don't think it's down to managers being too picky. Particularly on Arna, because he only has some input into the process. The majority of the process is being run by Hughes. So his say has more weight at this point. So I don't buy into this everything is great malarkey. And the biggest damning criticism I can give of all of it is just look at our net spend compared to others that are pushing and chasing titles. We are a worldwide global club operating on a mid-table Premier League budget. That's the fact of it. You know, again, it's there in black and white. Go and look at it. Net spend under FSG is average somewhere in around 40 million a season. Now, we've had some windows where that has gone up. The last window for Jurgen in the summer, that was a particularly high. I think we had about 90 million net, something like that in that window. Whitney said, giving Slot nothing for 2 windows is weird. Well, I guess technically got stuff in the summer, albeit still not the position we needed strengthening. And I'm not going to say I wasn't happy with those bits of business. I was very happy with them. I think the Mamardashvili signing was an opportunistic one that I think will stand us in good stead long term. And Chiesa was worth a punt at the bargain price tag he was going for. Amram saying he could be sacked makes me laugh, said Charlie. Well, he's had the worst start of any Manchester United manager in recent times, from what I can gather. Look, I'll move on to talk about that shit show of a club in a while, because they are just a laughing stock. But while we're on them, let's talk about United for a quick second, because the old Opta supercomputer has been on the go again. And based on 10,000 simulations, Manchester United's most likely finishing positions in the Premier League this season are 12th is the most likely finish for United according to the Opta supercomputer. 13.7% chance they finish 12th. 13th, 13.3% chance. 11th, 13.1%. And 10th, 11.2%. So whichever way you look at it, the Opta supercomputer has Manchester United odds on for a bottom half finish in the Premier League. And that's after a summer where they spent, I think, 200 million quid. That is the other end of the spectrum about how to piss away and waste money. So I don't want our club to do that, but our transfer hit rate has been higher. So imagine what we could do with a few more quid. I'm actually starting to feel sorry for them. How on earth do you can see 2 consecutive straight corner kick goals? I don't know. But don't feel sorry for them, mate. Don't. That's what they want you to do. They don't. No. Just laugh at them. That's the best way you can go about it. Right, so I have some actual news to get through. So let me start reading through some of these things for you, and we'll get stuck into it. So a couple of reports coming out of Spain here, and I would say take these with a pinch of salt, but it's my job to give you every side of this equation. Both within and outside the Madrid camp, there is a growing belief that Trent Alexander-Arnold will join Real Madrid this summer. Again, from Relevo this time, they say Trent Alexander-Arnold is keen to do a proper farewell to Liverpool in style before joining Real Madrid. The deal between Trent and Madrid is now heating up, and it will accelerate in January. So, you balance that with what the English side are saying, and you get 2 very different pictures on Trent. Truth is, I don't think anybody knows what's going on with Trent. And I include both sides of the journalistic divide here. I don't think Madrid know, and I don't think the English journalists know. I think everybody is just believing that Trent is given first priority to negotiate with Liverpool. But after that, it seems like everybody's at a loss to figure out what's going on. Virgil van Dijk also posted an image with the caption "The show goes on" of him underneath the scoreboard there of Liverpool's 3-1 victory over Leicester, and I wonder, was that a little hint maybe about a contract extension, or again was it just a post-match kind of we move on to the next game? Probably was, but I don't know. Right, so we've had 1,348 votes. I'm going to leave it running a little bit longer to see if we can get to 1,500 votes. And then we'll answer how many signings do you expect in January. So if you haven't voted, still time, please vote away. I have a question for you. I'm considering trying to get David on for a live Q&A in January once a week. Does that sound good? Because I know at times, me and David recording a video, you guys probably feel there are things that you would like to ask, either myself or David, about the window. So David's not going to be here for the day after the West Ham game. He's away with his family to bring in the new year. So I'm thinking that from January throughout the entire month, and maybe onwards, we do once a week a Q&A where we bring David on for a half an hour and you guys can fire questions into the chat and get some live feedback from David on the questions you have. I think that would be a good route forward for us to give you guys the opportunity to put some questions to David yourself. Yeah, cool. Looks like the chat are liking that idea. Nice one. Thank you. Yeah, again, we're always open to your feedback, and you know, a couple of people have suggested this to us. I was talking to Connor about it earlier on. It seems a natural fit, to be honest, because I certainly know if I was watching the channel and I was in your position, there'd be questions I'd want to put to David. So yeah, appreciate your feedback on that. Thank you. Right, let's get back into the news for a little bit. We've gone through those ones. We've got through that one. So, Arne Slot has given us an update about Ibrahim Konate and Connor Bradley. And this is what he had to say in his pre-West Ham press conference. He said they will not be back for the West Ham United game. There is a week in between the West Ham game and Manchester United. Let's see how close they are then. It's difficult for me to tell you at the moment because they didn't train with the first team group yet. Hopefully, in the next few days, they come closer to that situation. Ibu has been out for 5 to 6 weeks, maybe Connor even longer or just as long. They're in competition with players who are completely fit and are doing really well, so I have to make the right judgment the moment they are back with the team. And he was also speaking a bit about Diogo Jota and why he didn't start perhaps against Leicester, and this is what he had to say about Diogo. We're still managing his fitness. Diogo has been out for quite a long time and he couldn't train that much. Sometimes if a player has an injury, he can do a lot, but Diogo couldn't do anything for a long time. Since this league is so intense, it's not so easy with 2 months out to come in and play from the start again. You need to have some minutes to build this up, and he is in competition with some other special players as well, who are at this moment also on top of their game. He's gradually building it up, and I think he comes close to starting a game, but he has competition in his position as well. So a hint there that maybe we'll see him start against West Ham, and then hopefully with the full week then between that and the United game, he'll be ready to go for that one as well. Right, still a few votes away from hitting our target of 1,500. So if you haven't voted, please do take part in the poll at the top, and we'll give you the results in a couple of minutes. Ricci and Kirkes would be good, said Tony Hoare. So I feel very, 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 very confident in saying that I wouldn't be expecting a left back in January, at least from my understanding of the lay of the land there. I don't think we will see a left back brought in January. Now, of course, everything is open. If, let's say, an offer came in for Costas that the club wanted to entertain and Costas fancied the idea of, then maybe. But certainly the impression that I'm getting is don't be expecting a left back in January. You know, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm telling you that's genuinely the vibe I'm getting. Ash said, I expect no signings in January. Window's been shut, best part of 4 months. Hughes' priority should then have been the contracts, to which he sorted none thus far. VVD, Trent, Salah and Konate. Yeah, it really winds me up, Ash, when I see posts like that one there from Chris Bascom saying that Liverpool are relaxed about it, blah, blah, blah. And then Paul Joyce saying that Van Dijk's future is believed to be the priority. And yet we haven't even got that one done. And he's the easiest. Any journalist will tell you that one is the easiest of the 3 to get done. And yet if that's 1, the easiest, and 2, the club's priority, then why isn't it done? That I don't know the answer to. See, Jobo, I take a bit of offence to what you've said there, and let me explain why. You said, I would love to ask David, are you an FSG mouthpiece? I'm going to try my best, not being David, to give you an answer to that question. The difference between me and what we do on Anfield Agenda and David is I'm a fan who speaks from a fan perspective and speaks about life as a fan. David's a journalist, a professional journalist that has accreditation to go to the games and cover the games. And I promise you, I don't believe him to be an FSG yes man in any way, shape or form. And in conversations I've had with him, I believe that he's just more upbeat in his outlook in certain regards. But I wouldn't have him on here. Like, for instance, James Pearce, I think now has become an absolute disgrace. As much as a lovely guy as I think James Pearce is, I think what he does at the start of every window is intentional, and it's to pour cold water over the expectations of fans. But you won't see that from David Lynch, because he wants the signing. I can tell you without any hesitation, he wants a midfielder in January, like you do and I do. But as I said, I'm a fan, he's a journalist, he has to walk a far more cautious line than I do. I can say and get away with a lot more because ultimately I'm not answerable to anybody. You know, other than YouTube, I'm not answerable to anybody. And one more thing about David. Honestly, as well as being a very good journalist, I think he's a top lad as well. Honestly, I think he's a really, really top lad and somebody who I'd happily go out for dinner with and have a chat with. I enjoy when we chat about football. In fact, when we're talking about the stuff after games the next day, sometimes I get caught up in the chat about football and almost forget to get to the contracts and transfer stuff because I love that interaction and how he's seen the game from the stands and, you know, what his perspective was maybe inside the stadium versus a fan at home watching it. Nathan Foster, and I can also say, sorry, one more thing. He thinks really highly of you guys. You know, you've seen it in recent videos. He's seen an absolute uptick in views and people coming across to his channel and commenting since coming on and doing videos with us. And he's very grateful to all of you for your support. I can certainly say that on his behalf. Nathan Foster said, I know DM is a priority for January. However, with Jota being injury prone and Nunes not wanting to score, is there another number 9 we should target? I mean, look, you can definitely, Nathan, pick a handful of strikers or forwards and make an argument for them. You know, whether you're talking Marmouches, Gyökeres, Isak or anybody else. And I think we could all say there's some merit to them. I just think, trying to be balanced and honest about it, 6 forwards is enough for a manager with young Dans there as well to find solutions. Now, when it was 4, it was difficult for Arner because, you know, he had no Diogo, he had no Chiesa, and to some extent he sort of still has no Chiesa because we haven't seen him play regular games yet. But I do think he has options there. If Diogo's fit now, you know, I think he can do enough of a job, and then there's still chances for Darwin to come in and impress as well. Or you can put Luis Diaz through the middle. So for me, it's a summer priority, that one, when we've more time to maybe look to move somebody who we don't think has a future on. But I wouldn't say no. Like, if we brought in a striker in January, I'm not going to be angry about it, because I do agree with you in that is a position longer term I think we need to look at. But it is also mad that a lot of the links have been to attackers. You know, if you look at either attacking midfielders or attackers, wingers, a lot of the links recently in the media have been, I don't know if it's because it's a sexier position to get clicks on or whatever, but yeah, it's certainly been one that I've laughed at a little bit. David Cornwell said, for me, I would like a DM, Nico Gonzalez and Bournemouth double raid for Kirkes and Huijsen. And Marmouche as a Darwin replacement. So I did bring up Nico Gonzalez today at the end of my video with David Lynch, and he said to me that he's not a name personally that he's heard brought up or mentioned in conversation. But then again, there are no names that I've heard have been brought up, so I don't know what to make of that really, other than I do agree with people that maybe the club are keeping the cards close to their chest. My fear here is that they're still on this Subamendi loving, and that they maybe roll the dice and hope that they can get him next summer. you know, if that played out, I'd almost need a pre-contract signed or something in January to guarantee he's coming in the summer. And then you could make a point about, well, this is the guy, this is the one for the long-term future. Yes, we've taken a risk for the rest of this season, but we've taken that risk because the number one target is here and guaranteed for the summer. You could sell that to the fan base. But on the off chance or hoping that maybe it happens in the summer, I find that a bit more concerning personally. Do you miss all the crosses we had yesterday? Oh, Arnell, don't get me started, bro. And do you know what made it even funnier? Go out second half, start well, score in the first few minutes, doing exactly what we told and everybody was screaming at them to do in the first half, which is little triangles, bit of movement around the penalty area, give it and go, get to the byline, get your head up and pull it back. We do that, we get a goal nice and quickly. So yeah, that first half, man, it was so frustrating. 33 crosses and maybe 4 of them getting to a Liverpool player. Pizzo said, Craig, I think we should have another midfielder. I think Slot is not Arne Slot's favourite. He isn't, you're right. But let me say this. Everybody loves Waturo. Everybody. Arne mightn't think he's the right guy, but I promise you, from a professional standpoint, glowing. All the stuff that comes out about Waturo Endo, and rightly so, because he is a model pro, an absolute gentleman of a man, and a model professional. And somebody that I love to see Liverpool fans wanting to see more of because he's a very easy guy to like and you should be loving him. But I can also understand that Arne just doesn't feel right fit for the way he wants it to play. You know, you may agree or disagree, but at least we know that there's no attitude stuff or anything with Toro. You know, he is a top pro. I get City vibes from Zubamendi as well, said Alejandro. See, that would be the most idiotic move in his life. You know, on top of the fact that he's on the bench once Rodri comes back, you've got the whole charges, and like right now Manchester City are a mess, and Haaland isn't even scoring, like missing penalties against Everton. He's underperforming his XG, as I mentioned yesterday. His XG in his last 13 games is 8.2. And he's only scored 3. So he's underperforming his own XG by 5 goals. That is huge for somebody that is supposed to be the best striker in the world. Where did I read this from? So I read this on The Athletic. And it was kind of pleasant to see, actually, again, somebody call out an underperforming performance from Darwin. So The Athletic wrote, Liverpool could afford to carry another underwhelming display from the wasteful Núñez, who completed just 10 of his 19 passes, so 53%, won just 1 out of 4 duels, 25%, and forced a save with just 1 of his 4 attempts on goal. And that right there, the reason I clipped that little part of the article was, that summarises it all. So as much as we want him to do well, as much as we admire his work rate and his running around and his enthusiasm, there's some damning numbers. So simple passes, 10 from 19. Like just over half the passes going to the right place. That's not right. The duels, one of the things we would have said would have been a better avenue for Darwin. 1 out of 4 duels in that game. So only 25% of those duels won. And then 4 shots with only 1 of them going on target. I think it speaks volumes as to how bad things are there at the minute. Joshua said, 3 Liverpool players on a road trip. Who you taking? Robbo, 100% Robbo's first one in the car. So Robbo, who else am I taking on a road trip? I need somebody who's going to be thoughtful, because you got your Robbo for your bit of crack and your bit of fun and your laugh, but you need somebody who's going to be thoughtful, get the morning coffees in, all that kind of stuff. So I think I'm bringing Big Ibu. So yeah, so that's 2. We've got Ibrahima Kanade and we've got Andy Robertson. Now who's my third one? you know what? I'm going Irish. I'm bringing Conor Bradley. Because I want to hear out of his own mouth that the Tato from the south of Ireland is better than the Tato from Northern Ireland. So I'm going Conor Bradley, Andy Robertson, and Ibrahim Konate. It's still only 1-0 to Arsenal in that game. Wow. That's that's not the resounding victory I was expecting so far from Arsenal tonight, but yeah, there you go. I was watching Sky Sports earlier on, by the way, and it was almost funny how much they wanted to talk about Arsenal coming back into a title race. The desperation from some parts of the media to have a London team in the title race is laughable. It's so funny sitting back and watching it. Just trying to find any which way to try and justify talking about Arsenal now going into a run of form that will see them catch up. It's not going to happen. So let them talk about it as much as they want. Nick said, favourite ever bang average Liverpool player? Ragnar Klavan. Easy. No, sorry. No. I'm going to go back a little bit. Kolo Touré. He wasn't great for us, but oh, what a nice fella. What a lovely fella. So I'm gonna go Kolo Touré probably. Some good shouts here in the chat actually. Origi I don't think Origi was bang average. I think Origi was a really important aspect of our success. Scored some really pivotal goals, and I just think he was never really good enough to be a regular centre forward. But it's a good shout. Ryan Babel's a good shout as well. Ryan Babel will be a good shout. He's a good lad as well. Although he can be a bit divisive, I think, maybe, Babel at times. But yeah, good shout. Daniel Sturridge. See, I would never say Daniel Sturridge was average at Liverpool. So the question was, favourite bang average Liverpool player? I think Danny Sturridge, when he was fit, was incredible. Jason McAteer for me, said David. Yeah, good shout. McAteer, very likeable guy as well. Lucas Leiva. Yeah, I love that. I love you mentioned Lucas Leiva in there, because Lucas Leiva to me is a lot of what I admire about a footballer. You know, a really positive attitude, always showing up, even if he's sacrificing for the team, he's positive, takes over media duties as well when he's out injured. And I loved Lucas Leiva. I think I've told you guys this story before, but I named my son Lucas after Lucas Leiva. And I've got a signed Lucas Leiva shirt up in the attic to give to my son when he's 18, so I can show him and tell him the player that he got his name from. So here's a bit of a mad one, right? The Times Sport put this out to say, breaking, Lord Panic, the guy who's attempting to defend Manchester City from the 115 Premier League charges, is an Arsenal season ticket holder. I don't know, I wouldn't read anything into that. I certainly wouldn't question the man's professionalism in doing his job. But Lord Panic, who is defending Manchester City in those charges, has revealed that he is an Arsenal season ticket holder. I'm sure if the judgment goes against City, some City fans are going to be looking to lay some blame there rather than on the, cheating. But I thought that was an interesting one. Nomad said, I love Maxi Rodriguez. Great show. Brilliant, mate. Great show. Maxi was an easy player to love as well. Free transfer, if my memory correct, is right as well, from Atleti, if I'm remembering this all correctly. But yeah, love Maxi as well. Did I see the 9-darter? I did, yes. Do you know what I loved about that? I loved how both lads on the stage celebrated it. I thought that was brilliant. Star Player said, not bang average, but Nathaniel Klein. I remember having a conversation when Kleiny was the starting right back and Trent was coming through. And I remember someone saying, we had a conversation about, can Trent remove Klein from the starting lineup? Can Trent take over from Klein? And thinking, it's a big ask that. Because at that point, Klein was, playing regularly in England and, a really highly thought after or respected right back. And now all these years later, looking at it, and I just think, wow, what a silly conversation that was, because, Trent has gone on to show what a great footballer he is, and, how many attributes he has and whatnot. But remember that early conversation wondering if he could, push Klein out of the team. Right, now we'll end this poll. We've got 1,730 votes, and we asked you, how many signings do you expect in January? And the top answer with 45% was none. Now let me ask you another question, because seeing as how most of you have answered none, with 45%, one signing 31%, two signings 23%. Now let me ask you a different question. Simple question this time. And again, I'm wording these very intentionally. Will you be understanding if we sign nobody in January? So, you can interpret understanding however you like. But the question is, will you be understanding if we signed nobody in January? Yes or no? Again, let's see how people feel about this one. Because we've already seen that, the most clicked on answer was that people expect 0 signings. So now I want to know, if no signings come in, will you be understanding of that? Forever Red said, hey Craig, I play as a 6, but FSG couldn't sign me because I would demand £10 signing on fee. Yeah, no, you're only getting 8 off them, mate. You're right, hang off for the 10. You deserve it. Charlie said, I always had a soft spot for Soterios Kyriakos. Yes, and there was another one. Who was the Pellegrini? Or Pellegrini? The guy that Rafa brought in, who had a bigger turning circle than John W. Henry's yacht. He turned that slowly. That lad was funny. It was almost like he just had this walloper of a foot and couldn't do anything else. Jake Beale, how are you, Jake? Said, Craig, might be an easy question, but can you name your best Liverpool five-a-side team? I'd also like to say, been watching you for some time. Brilliant channel, keep up the good work, mate. Thank you. So for five-a-side, yeah, I'll give you a five-a-side team. I'm going to put Pepe Reina in goal because he's smaller than Alisson, and I think they're both brilliant with the ball at their feet. So in my five-a-side team, I'm going to go Pepe Reina in goal. Then, who else would I have in here? Trent, easily. Give it one more defender then. Trent, and I need somebody skillful here. So, yeah, Trent and Virgil. And then, who else would I put in my five-a-side team? Salah, obviously. And I'm giving you from the here and now 11. No, I'm not sure. No, fuck that. I'm going to have to go again. Start it all over again. Sorry. So, Pepe Reina in goal. Trent. Virgil. Fowler. Suarez. There. And then I'm leaving out Alonso and Gerrard. So, it's disgusting. I can't pick it because 2 defenders, 2 attackers and a goalkeeper. And then you're leaving out quality like, Gerrard, Alonso, Mulby, Dalglish. Yeah, it's horrible. I couldn't. 5 players, it'd be impossible. Firmino as well. Yeah, it's just too many names there to whittle it down to 5. Reina for a five-a-side. Why is that lol? Do you not remember how good Pepe Reina was with the ball at his feet? Pepe Reina was incredible when he came in. And did stuff that I hadn't seen a goalkeeper do with distribution, and I will die on that hill. He was the original for us. Unbelievable. Thiago, yeah, how could I forget Thiago? That's a good show. You have to have Thiago in a five-a-side, of course. Yeah, you're right, I'm an idiot. Thiago has to be in there. Any feedback on transfers, said Gino. It's not looking great from what I can gather, mate. I'm certainly starting to fear the worst for January, but you know, I can't say anything for certain. Yeah. So what I do want to clear up though is a conversation that I had with David Lynch around what the word opportunistic means, because I think this is an important phrase that we're going to hear trotted out quite a bit throughout this window and future windows. And the word opportunistic is often, I think, misinterpreted as, well, let's wait and see if a club suddenly become near bankrupt in January and we can get somebody for a tenner. I don't think that that's what they mean when they talk about opportunistic. What I think they mean is perhaps a player who was on the list that they didn't think was going to be available at this moment, for whatever reason, shows signs of becoming available. Liverpool are willing to move earlier. That's what I think the club means, or journalists mean, when they speak about opportunistic. I don't necessarily think it's just cheap, but sometimes cheap comes into as a factor, like Chiesa. That was an opportunistic signing. But I think often, like Luis Diaz, I feel like that is a perfect example of an opportunistic signing, because the plan for Liverpool was to get him in the next window. But Spurs came in and were pushing to get that deal done. So Liverpool then had to kind of work on the fly and push their plans forward a little bit and bring Lucho in. So yeah, that's what I think the club mean by an opportunistic signing, rather than, you know, let's say going to Lyon because Ryan Cherky is going cheap and Lyon are up to shits. So yeah, again, I feel like I'm defending the club there, but I'm just being honest. That's what I've always viewed as opportunistic. But I guess the word cheap does come into that at times as well. Akshat said Trent is taking a huge risk going to Madrid. I just don't think I don't think he'll look back at that decision if he goes later in his life and feel it was the right one. I just don't. Yeah, but look, we can't make that decision for him, can we? Trent is his own man, and you know, he'll make up his own mind. I just hope that he stays, because I think it's the best thing for him. Do you remember the goalkeeper Brad Jones? Yes, of course, Australian guy. I think his son had a very bad illness as well, if I remember. Was happy to be back up, never complained and worked hard. Also saved a pen when he came on after Donny got sent off. Yeah, I always liked Brad Jones as well. I thought he came across as a really nice fella. Excuse me. Kieran said we don't need to fix what isn't broken. But Kieran, it isn't broken yet, is the key word. Do you not worry, Kieran, that what's happened with Saka at Arsenal might happen to Ryan Gravenberch? And we don't want that to happen if it happens at the business end of a season, because Ryan has been overplayed. So I get where you're coming from. Our first 11, you can make an argument, is as good as anybody's. But it is about being able to make sure that our first 11, when we get to the business end of the season, is fresh and ready to give 100%. Let me just say, remember the Champions League final between Manchester City and Inter Milan? That was one of the worst quality Champions League finals I've ever watched, because both teams were absolutely exhausted. And it was a shit spectacle, and what should have been the culmination of a season and a showcase for the best of European football was completely undermined by players being exhausted. And I don't want that to be the case. And I don't want us to hear that Gravenberch isn't at his best in March because he's exhausted. So the don't fix what isn't broken argument, I just don't buy, to be honest with you, mate. When you can see evidence already, and you know, David said this as well in his own match reactions yesterday, of Gravenberch's percentage maybe being a little bit off what it was. And I think it'll only get worse the more he's played if he isn't rested enough. Aaron said FSG banking on good looks drives me mad. Yes, because for people who believe in looking into the metrics and data around these things, it doesn't take too much looking back on us rolling the dice in those seasons, not bringing in midfielders or centre backs, and finding out it didn't work out well for us. It was Alisson Becker's header against West Brom which saved the season for us and got us into third in Champions League football. But, you know, last season not getting this midfielder in ended up showing the business end of the season where the wheels fell off the title race and, you know, we ended up with the League Cup. Deirdre Drake Best says, you're absolutely right, Gravenberch needs help. And that's the best way to put it. That's the best way. He needs help. Not replacing, but help. And you want the best possible backups or rotation options there for the club. So I look at these things very simplistically. You look at a squad and you think, can I improve any area of this squad? Even if it is a backup player. And if the answer to that is yes, that there are players that we feel we can get better options, then I think we should do it. As ruthless as that sounds, tough shit, it's top level sport. Burren, thank you for the super chat, mate. Appreciate you. And Andrew Childer host, thank you, said, it's not fixing what isn't broken, it's adding for strength. Exactly. It's preventative rather than reactive. So, you know, in medicine, we often hear about keeping a healthier lifestyle, eating more healthy, exercising to prevent illnesses in the future. Well, if you do all these things and you prevent those illnesses, you're never going to know whether you would have got those illnesses or not, right? Because you've taken the steps and you've prevented them. So it's very difficult to look at and project the stuff that hypothetically could have happened or not happened. So who knows? But I think we can say it gives us a better chance of not having a fall off if we bring in this player. So yeah, preventative rather than reactive is what I would say. How's Bajcetic getting on? Do you know what? I don't know in recent weeks, mate. I don't. You know, he was getting played fairly regularly up until Pep Linders got sacked. But I don't know the new manager or his thoughts or anything. I haven't been paying attention to Salzburg, so I think it will be interesting to see what Liverpool look to do though with Bajcetic in January, because if the new manager comes in and he's out of favour there, then, you know, the whole reason for him being there was to get minutes on the pitch. So if that's not going to be the case, then Liverpool may have a decision to make about moving him on elsewhere for the second half of the season. Oh yes, and thank you, Stephen. Thank you for pointing it out as well, Stephen L. We did hit 289,000 subscribers while we were offline, actually. So thank you to everyone for hitting the subscribe button. If you haven't, please do subscribe now if you haven't done so. And also check out the Anfield Agenda Clips channel, which has been doing absolutely phenomenally over the last few months. And you may think you're already subscribed to it, so do check. Also, one other thing, we still have that link pinned to the top of the chat. We're helping to try raise money to get Joe that wheelchair basketball chair. We're going to carry it on into January as well, because Connor and I are going to raffle a PlayStation 5. We're just still sorting out the legalities of the practical side of that. But we're going to raffle away a PS5 to help, you know, get some donations in for Joe to help try and raise the money for that chair. Do you think Jurgen decided to go because he knew the owners wouldn't spend? I think it might be part of it. You know, if I look at the Jurgen situation and think, why do I think he left? Well, I think tiredness, like he spoke about, is certainly a part of it. You know, the energy levels required to run a club the size of Liverpool and be the figurehead of the club, I would imagine that takes its toll. I would imagine the situation with the PGOML and some of the referees, I think that would have probably played a part. Do I think the lack of funds played a part? Well, I think yes, but Jurgen says otherwise. But I wonder if we'll ever find out differently. I think it was a culmination of factors that made him make the decision, but I think it was the right one. Maybe the timing of it could have been a little bit better, but I do think it was the right decision. I don't like the idea of a manager starting a season and not finishing it. And Jurgen did finish the season. So, I think he managed the situation. What was a difficult situation, I guess, as well as could be. 1 second, because YouTube once again booting out the chat. So I have to refresh this for 1 sec, folks. Bear with me. It's been very glitchy lately on YouTube. Some stuff like chat just suddenly getting booted out. So I'm back now, so bear with me for 2 seconds. Here we go. Perfect. Love the content, Craig. Keep it up. Regards, Joseph. Thank you, Joseph. So we're about 400 votes away from getting to 1,000 on our recent poll here, which is, will you be understanding if we sign nobody in January? So will you be understanding if we sign nobody in January? That is the current poll. So do check that out. Arsenal playing like Man City. Boring. Again, Arsenal are playing like they're afraid to win the league. They just don't want to lose it. And that's the difference. That's why Arsenal won't win the Premier League in the near future. Because Arteta is a pussy. That's genuinely how I feel about it. If I was an Arsenal fan, that's what I'd be saying to you right now. Is that they're afraid that he wants not to lose it. He doesn't want to go win it. You look at Guardiola. You look at Arne. You look at Jurgen. Trying to win the league. Trying to attack the league. Trying to grab it by the scruff of the neck and win it. They're so petrified that they're trying to just do enough to fall over the line. And I think that will come back to haunt them because I think they're too negative at times. Brett said, no Saka, no chance. Well, the only reason they have no Saka, to me, is also down to their manager. Because he overplayed him. And I think this is going to do more harm than good to his career, because by the time he's 25, 26, 27, he's going to have played a ridiculous amount of games at such a young age, and he'll be burnt out. This Arsenal performance is nowhere near good enough, said Nomad. Look, a win is a win is a win. If Arsenal fall over the line and get the win tonight, it's 3 points, and they can argue about that side of it later. So I get that as well. But for me, I thought that the game we played at the Emirates was a really good example of Arsenal letting a game get away from them. Because they could have went on and won that game, but they didn't. They were 2-1 up and they played like cowards, and we got back into it because they were being too negative. And then they tried to switch it back on after we got an equaliser and, did manage to get a winner. So, again, these are things that, no matter what the deserve to win-o-meter says, the do you have a pair of balls-o-meter here that I have says, Arteta is way too overrated for not winning anything. Well, he's won one FA Cup, but I get your point. For the money he's spent, the backing he's had, the players that have come through the door, to not deliver a big trophy there when you spend over 100 million quid on Declan Rice, as an example, I don't think any other club's manager would get away with it. Not if you're, if Arne had done that, or Jurgen had done that 5 years into the job, I don't think any of us would be still thinking that that's the guy. Respectful as we'd be, I think we'd have very, very valid questions about how much longer is this lad going to need. Because this was the season, wasn't it? This was the one where they were to be crowned Premier League champions, according to many factions of the media. If City aren't at it, well, then it's going to be Arsenal's season. Until it wasn't. Craig, will Rio play in the Cup or Premier League because he was included in the Southampton squad, meaning he plays, right? I wonder if we may see him in the squad again for the Accrington Stanley game. But I don't know how many minutes he'll get. I know that when he was brought in, there was no real plan to use him in the first team this season. He'll train with the first team. Travelling to Southampton with the first team will be a great experience as well for him, getting him a little taste of what it's like on a match day, travelling away, you know, what it's like, so it's not as daunting when he comes into it. But I just don't think he's ready yet to be going into the first team, and we have to be careful of this as well. You need to show him a pathway through, and I think that pathway will be there. You'll probably see him pre-season a lot more, and then a decision will be made about what's best for next season. But I would be, I think, very, 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 very limited opportunities this season, if any. When are we going to see Chiesa? Well, he's back on the bench now, Gino. You know, he was in the squad yesterday, so I guess it's just a matter of when Arna feels like he needs to turn to him, because I was a little bit disappointed not to see him get a run out yesterday, even a couple of minutes to get some time in his legs. Yeah, so that now you're starting to think, like, when will he get minutes? Well, again, you're looking to that Accrington Stanley game, aren't you? Maybe even the League Cup game against Spurs in one of those legs, but it's a risk because Arna just can't afford a drop off in the front three at the minute, because if we're conceding goals, which we have done in recent games, well, then we're kind of reliant on the front end of the pitch to get us the goals to win the game. So yeah, and also I don't know what he sees on the training ground as well with Chiesa, so he's got to be confident that, one, his legs will be able to do the job, and two, that his quality will be there. Charles said, I'm from Northern Ireland, Belfast. I know you're from Dublin. Isn't alright? Did you mean isn't that right? I am initially from Dublin, mate, yes, but I live in Wexford. I've lived here for the last, well, in Wexford in general, for the last 18, 19 years. This particular house about 14 years, but yeah, I am originally. And love Belfast, by the way, one of my favourite places to visit. Absolutely great city. I want Chiesa to play with the big boys, said Gino. So do we. Look, we all want him to play and do well, mate. Absolutely. I was buzzing when we seen a little bit of him before. He was pulled away to get fitter again, but yeah, I hope we see him soon. Izan said, I was born in Enniscorthy. I lived in Enniscorthy, mate. I lived in an estate called, well, actually it was outside Enniscorthy. It was Davidstown, but I class it as Enniscorthy. Oh God, that was a little bit too rural for me, though. I won't lie to you, mate. I was there for 2 years before we moved here, and it was a little bit too rural for my liking. Yeah, Michael, you can't be putting in comments like "stay in Belfast, you Rangers twat." We don't do any divisiveness in here, mate. You know, no Catholic, Protestant divide, no Rangers, Celtic. We're here to come together and talk about things, not to have divisive conversations. So that includes people who are here regularly. You know, show respect to everybody in the chat until they give us a reason not to be respectful towards them. 4 days, 2 hours till Mo, Trent and VVD can talk to any other club. Yeah, it's scaring the shit out of me. I can't lie. I think, you know, I fully expected at least one of these contracts to be announced over the Christmas time, and yeah, I'm worried at the minute, but there's not much I can do about it as a fan other than patiently or impatiently sit here waiting. Can you give me an update what you mean with no signings? Yes. So it's my reading of the situation and what I'm feeling is going to happen. I don't know it to be a fact, mate, but my gut feeling based on speaking to David and a couple of other journalists is I'm not overly optimistic that we'll see any signings brought in January. I'm not ruling it out, but you know the old 50 quid I always say to you, if I had 50 quid, I'd be putting it down on no signings, which I think will be the wrong move. I think we absolutely need them, but yeah, the vibe I'm getting is unless something opportunistic maybe pops up, we're probably going to hold as we are. Or Edwards and Hughes are playing the blinder and they're about to whip out a midfielder that nobody knew what we were being linked to or something. But yeah, that's just my gut feeling now. As I feel I'm preparing myself for no signings. And I'm already getting angry thinking about it, but that's genuinely what the vibe I'm getting is at the minute. Would you take Saudi owners who are willing to spend? So again, I have to make this point because I don't like to alienate anybody. I don't give a shit who owns the club. As in, I don't care if you're from Saudi Arabia, Dublin, Australia, America, anywhere, as long as you're not state-backed. So the only thing I will say to you is I don't want anybody backed by a state fund, a sovereign fund, to be running a football club because I don't think it's fair and I don't like the idea of state ownership. But any individual person that has genuine money, I don't care. If you want to come in and make Liverpool better, brilliant. But I just don't want it to be anybody who's backed by a state or a sovereign wealth fund. I just think they shouldn't be allowed on football clubs because it takes away jeopardy and it takes away the ability of anybody to operate what is a business as a business. You know? Look at what happens with the likes of Uber, as an example, right? Everybody looks at Uber and goes, brilliant, cheaper fares, all this stuff. And it is, until it becomes a monopoly. And then the prices get jacked up. So like everything else, when you're talking about Saudi interest or Qatar interest, while it's within their national project to pursue sport and build up sport, it's all great. But what if they change their mind? I know for a fact, having seen it happen to other clubs in Europe, that if they get bored or they want to change tactic, losing a football club and selling off all the assets and stripping it down, they don't care about that. If they can recoup some money from it, they don't give a shit if they're upsetting us. So no, I don't want any state-backed owners. That's the only thing I'll say. I've nothing against any part of the world or anything like that. If you're a private business person, you can buy the football club. Brilliant. We'll get behind you and we'll want you to do well. Madeni said, Craig, if you want to have a laugh, go back and look at the pundits' predictions start of the season. Oh, mate, look. I'm still laughing at Neville because he's paid a lot of money to give his opinion. And then he goes and said United have a better midfield than us and they'll finish above us in the league table. And I struggle to believe that he actually thought that. I do. I don't think he's been genuine with the people who are tuning in and paying for their Sky television and watching him. I don't. I think he's full of it, in all honesty. Because in no world can any rational-minded fan look at United and Liverpool and think that they're going to finish above us. None. And the conversation about midfield was fucking laughable. Because their midfield's dog shit. So it riles me up seeing them type of predictions because I don't believe they're truly what he thinks. Because he knows football better than that. And also, again, I struggle to figure this out. He was asked who was going to be the most impactful signing in the Premier League. He said Dominic Solanke and then predicted Spurs to finish worse than they did last season. Make that make sense. This player is going to be the most transformative signing of the window for his club, but they're going to finish worse than they did last season. Not my words. It's true, we do need new owners. We need owners that will spend because FSC is boring and can't even get 3 people's contracts over the line. Look, I always believe that if we want to have a conversation about the owners, it needs to be as balanced as we can make it, even if we're angry at them. So, when we talk about FSG as owners, let's be fair about one thing. They're no Glazers. They're not the worst owners in sport. Far from it. They do a lot of things very, very well. A lot of stuff. And, you know, they have built a training centre and revitalised the stands. And there are obvious things that they should be doing because it also increases the value of their asset. But they've brought in good people behind the scenes. They've commercialised the club far better. You know, they have brought relationships, strategic partnerships and business know-how to the club. They have, no doubt about that whatsoever. But we're not kicking on, you know. We're not kicking on. We're hearing about all the new commercial partnerships that we have, Husqvarna, Google Pixel and all these other stuff. And at the same time, we're hearing, but got no money. But, you know, funds are tight, wage bills high and all this other shit. And it just doesn't add up to me. So some stuff they've done great and I'll always give them credit for. But I will never get away from the Super League. Never. It was the most divisive thing I've seen owners do in my lifetime supporting football. And it was done with such a brazen attitude of no consultation to the season ticket holders, to the manager, to the players, to those who came before at the club, to the future. Just, this will make us more money. We're doing it and you're going to have to get with the program. So when they did that, no trust. And then did apology video like I've spoken about many times. That is PR 101. And it is truly pathetic that they did that video the way that they did. And I'm going to talk you through it again, just in case you're new to the channel and you haven't heard me give my reasoning. Go back and watch John W. Henry's "I'm sorry, we've learned lessons" bullshit video. And ask yourself a couple of things. Why is there yellow flowers on a table behind him? I'll tell you why. Because it's a calming colour. And psychologists will tell you that it's a more calming influence on the video setting. Why was the camera pitched above John W. Henry looking down on him? I'll tell you why. Because it makes him look frail and less of a daunting figure. And it makes you feel a little bit sorrier for him. Everything about that video was PR produced bullshit. With a man who was no more sorry for the decision that he made than, you know, he is about being a billionaire. He doesn't give a fuck. And he would do it again tomorrow, in my belief, if he thought he'd get away with it. And that, to me, was betrayal, which I will never forgive. Ever. And that's my honest take on it. So everything that came after that was, I've got to put up with them, because they are the owners, but I don't trust them. And I don't think I ever will trust them. Oh, that and the cowards. Sorry, I forgot the cowardly part, because anybody that's afraid to have any dissenting voices around them is a coward. And I don't know what it is about football clubs, but a lot of them are pussies because they just don't allow anybody with tough questions or a different opinion to be there or to have the time of day, you know? And that's cowardly, because I don't know why football is so afraid of transparency or afraid of being asked a difficult question or a dissenting voice, but everything is so fake at times and micromanaged and, you know, bullshit. You know, you look at our journalists. They have to answer questions from people that they don't want to be speaking to, but they have to answer them because that's the press. Football clubs don't seem to want it that way. And I wonder why. What are they afraid of? Because I've said this so many times. I'm open to being convinced I'm wrong about the owners. I've just not yet met anybody who's willing to sit me down and tell me why I'm wrong. They always belittle us or tell us we don't understand, but they're never able to articulate it. But they accuse the rest of us of being the ones who are unable to articulate a point. Well, I'm open to it. Tell me why I'm wrong. Sit me down and explain to me why I should be worshipping by the altar of FSG. And I promise you, I'm open-minded. But nobody does that. And that's the problem for me. Because unless you toe the company line, you ain't getting any love from the club, no matter how much you love it or how big of an audience you have. If you don't toe the company line and be a yes man, well, you're being kept out in the cold. Craig, I got to sign Virgil van Dijk top for Christmas, and if he doesn't renew his deal, I may cry. He will. I don't think you'll have anything to worry about there. And if it makes you feel any better, I have a signed Trent Alexander-Arnold shirt right over there on my wall, and I've been looking at it the same way you're looking at that Virgil shirt and hoping that he does renew. what's this one? Right, so nearly at the 1,000 votes now. We're a few away, and then we can end this poll. The question was, will you be understanding if we sign nobody in January? We're only 13 more votes away from closing this one, so if you haven't voted, please do. Roosba, I'm going to get to your super chat in a second, bro. I'm just waiting for this poll to get to 1,000 because we're close. 997, 999. One more vote. There we go. So, after 1,000 votes, 80% of you guys have said that you would not be understanding if we didn't sign a player in January, and 20% said yes, they would be understanding if we didn't sign a player in January. Says no there, 79, yes, 20, but when I clicked it, it said 80 and 20. There's always 1% missing for some reason on a YouTube poll, though. Roosba said, I'd personally prioritise a left-back signing. We keep making mistakes in games in that position. I agree with needing a DM too. I'm right there with you on left-back. I don't know if you were with us at the start of the stream, mate, but I said I went into this January window feeling like we could wait till the summer. Or excuse me, I went into this Christmas festive season feeling like we could wait till the summer for a left-back. But as I was doing out my notes last night, I found myself thinking, do you know what? I don't know if I feel that way anymore because of exactly what you've said there. I don't trust the two left backs that we have at the minute based for different reasons. And I would like us to bring one in. I just really, really don't think it's going to happen on the left back. Like, I'm 95% certain we're not signing a left back. How much was it when you bought the Trent shirt? God, I'm thinking back now. I want to say about £350 in the frame, something like that when I bought it. Didn't buy it from the club directly. I bought it from a different outlet, but about 350, I think. Craig, are my chats too much FSG out that none of them are getting read out? No, certainly you haven't intentionally missed any of your comments, are you? And you know what, bro? Put it in. Sorry, mate, if I've missed your comments, it isn't an intentional thing, and there's never too much FSG out in my mind, mate. I even missed the ones from my wife there, yeah. Well, that were apparently in the chat as well. So yeah, it's not, mate, I promise you. I don't have any issues reading out pro or con anything. I just, whatever catches my eye in the comments is what gets read out. So it's not intentional. So if you want to say something FSG in, FSG out, post away, bro, and I'll read it out for you. It's not intentional. Harry Klein, how are you, bro? Said, I got Barnes, Suarez signed photos for Christmas, and the day I got Mane, 1.5 weeks later, it was announced he was leaving. I miss Mane still. Yeah, that happened to me a few times. So I got a Raheem Sterling one at one point, and he left fairly soon after, and I felt a little bit annoyed about that one as well. So yeah, I fear, at least with the other ones though, with what photos was it? You said you got Barnes and Suarez, you know, you can look back at them knowing that, you know, they've moved on. Everything's less raw than you feel at the minute. Has Coppites of Anfield been in tonight? Well, David, I'm guessing you probably know he was banned because it happened yesterday in a stream that I think you were on where I banned him. So he hasn't been in, nor will he be in. And I actually went and had a little look at his channel, and it's fucking weird, by the way. So, like, a promo video which is an AI bird in her bra and underwear sitting there talking about launching the channel, just bit, yeah. But no, mate, he was booted out yesterday for something he said that was kind of disrespectful towards me after me giving him a bit of a shout out on a few occasions, trying to get people across to his channel. So, but I think you were here for that, David, if my memory's right. What do I think of Luke Littler? Unbelievable talent. God almighty, what a darts player. Yeah, unbelievable. Like, definitely a world champion in the making, whether it's this year or in the near future. He is just incredible darts player. Craig, I'm with you and respect you. Neville is a Man United gimp. Do you know, I'd say you could remove the words Man United ahead of that and still... I just despise Neville at this point because I think he's gotten too big for his boots, and I think he's doing the viewing public a disservice because Gary Neville is capable of being a brilliant pundit. And I've said this so many times, him and Jamie Carragher with Monday Night Football, I think they brought a new standard to punditry, and along with the innovations with technology from Sky, I think it was unbelievable. Like, probably the best football show on television. And then over the years, as Gary Neville's influence in the football media landscape began to grow, and he became a shit YouTuber and, you know, all these other things, and now he's doing watchalongs and all this other crap. But I just feel like he's too watered down now, and a lot of the stuff he says is bullshit. So yeah, I just want a bit less of him because I think he's not as good a product as he was in the past. I think the whole package has been watered down a bit, and yeah, just not as good as it once was. Right, so I'm keeping an eye out for this gentleman who I promised I'd read out a comment from if it came in. Just trying to find it, just in case, you know, I missed the man again. Aryan. I'm keeping an eye out for a comment from you, mate, just so I don't miss it again if you put it in. There you go. Craig, we got two big enemies every season, the PGMOL and FSG. FSG will sign no one in January and will make VVD and Salah renewals as the signings. FSG out, enough is enough. So, I don't entirely disagree with what you're saying, mate. I would call myself FSG out. I might not be as vocal as others because, you know, I tried to provide a balance to people who are in, but I think what you've said is probably somewhere close to what's going to happen, which is we'll get the contract extensions, and they'll roll the dice again and spend no money and see what happens down the line. I don't disagree with what you've written, my man. Craig, apparently is Ricci an alternative to Zubamendi? He's a name, Shannon, that has been mentioned quite a bit. A relatively new link, Samuel Ricci, for those of you watching. I believe he played for Torino. The price tag is an interesting one. I think you're probably looking at about 20-25 million. Age profile wise, again, he would fit into FSG and Liverpool's blueprint on that. I just don't know how strongly he's been looked at, but he certainly is a name that's been thrown into the conversation as a possible alternative in the media in the last few weeks. Right, Arthur said, off topic, but do either Leicester or Wolves stay up? Leicester, as far as I'm concerned, can get relegated right down to the divisions, and their tragedy chanting, poverty chanting arsehole fan base can fuck off forever. I have no respect for that fan base anymore. Zero. Anybody who starts singing about poverty, tragedy chanting, or anything else, particularly the poverty stuff like Feed the Scousers, do one. You're a scumbag. You're a low-life piece of shit. And be better. Particularly if we want to be really fussy about it, you know, look a little bit closer to home, because every city has issues around poverty, and those issues should be addressed respectfully, because there shouldn't be the levels of poverty we're seeing in first world countries these days. So, yeah, I'm done. And I'm done playing nice as well, or trying to placate them. Some of the behaviour I've seen from Forest fans, from Leicester fans, just sick. So, yeah, and answer to your question, I hope Leicester get relegated back down to the Championship, and Wolves, I think Wolves have done a little bit of the old singing themselves, if I'm not mistaken, but as a club I find them inoffensive enough. Craig Hoarder said, Kindred Spirits, Craig, Ireland/Iceland, FSGO. Thank you, bro. Always appreciate your insights and your kindness, mate. So look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say goodnight to you all, and I'm going to go record a recap video of all the news. So if you haven't seen what we've spoken about tonight, I'll recap it all for you in a video, and that will be out in about 20-25 minutes time. Tomorrow we'll be back, same time, same place, Late Night Agenda. The preview for the West Ham game is coming out tomorrow morning as well, so keep an eye out for that one dropping. And if you can do me a favour on the way out, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so, drop a like on the stream, and check out the Clips channel for me. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Much love. Thank you for everything. Bye-bye.